Hello, Steve White, Steve RC9. Well, I watched Barracuda. It's a mini series. It's 4 episodes, about an hour each. It came out in 2016. I'd heard it was gay. It's not a gay story. It's not about, well, yeah. Okay, it's about a Greek boy who is very talented at swimming, who trains for the Olympics. He gets very close. He gets all the way to the Commonwealth Games basically in 1998. He's hoping to do the Olympics in 2000, which were going to be in Sydney. And he's got a scholarship. He's from Reservoir, which is a suburb next to me, which they're referring to as he's from the wrong side of the tracks. And it's like, well, I'm very close to those tracks. I'm like just on the other side of those tracks. Just before the wrong side of the tracks. And of course he gets crap, he gets called the W word, and he's part Greek, his mother's Greek. And there's another boy on the team, and there's tension between most of the boys, but a couple in particular. And he starts to develop a bit of a weird relationship with one of them, where they're very adversarial at first because this guy, he was the fastest on the team. I forget the terms. I think he won a specific thing, like the nationals or something, and he beat him. And eventually he was just like, "You're better than me, fine," And they're sort of working together for the good of the team. And they're both going up for the same, but different types of swim. He was doing butterfly, the other one was doing another one. I can't swim. I mean, if I fell in the water, I wouldn't drown, but I can't really swim. A kid tried to drown me when we were learning how to swim, and I didn't learn properly how to swim. So, like I said, if I fell in the water, I wouldn't drown, but I'd have to be rescued because I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. I wouldn't be able to swim for land or anything. If I fell out of a boat, I'd have to wait to be rescued. But and I can't even have water go over my face without having an immediate panic reaction. I can't even put my face under the water in the shower. So I found it very weird to go into this world of swimming and competitive swimming when the most I've swam in my adult life is walking up to maybe my neck at the beach, or maybe floating into the deep end of the pool, and letting my feet feel like they're just floating for a couple of seconds before I paddled back. That's about it. But yeah, so eventually, it starts off like your regular story, and you think these guys are going to end up being together. That doesn't happen. And you think this guy's going to win or have to sacrifice or something, and that doesn't happen either. He does get really close to this other guy, and there's a point where they both plan to go to the Commonwealth Games and Olympics together. And he's falling in love with this guy, and he actually, when he wins, he breaks a record. He actually says he did it for him because he had just failed to qualify. So then he went in and he not only qualified but he also broke a record. And so he basically kisses him. He kind of kisses back, but not really. And then other people come and they leave and they don't seem to talk about it or anything. And I'm like, is this a misunderstanding between straight men? Is this something that happens, or is this closeted? It's never defined in any way. And then he's like, look, I need you to be there. I want you to be there. We can do this together. You can do it with me. Even if you're not in the pool with me, you can, still be there and share in it. But then he doesn't show up. So he goes to Kuala Lumpur, or Kuala Lumpur, as I like to call it. And he fails spectacularly. He went from breaking the world record to falling below his own record and becoming fourth. and he can't even get out of the pool. The coach has to pull him out, and he basically just falls onto the ground and is like just devastated. He doesn't recover. He never gets in the pool again. 2 years later, the Olympics are on TV. Everyone's celebrating it. He's spiraling, drinking, and he eventually ends up at a party that guy threw for the Olympics, and he ends up being quite jealous of this fiance he's introducing him to, and he ends up confronting him and attacking him because he's like, I did it for you. He says, I loved you in front of everyone. I'm like, oh God. And then they fight. The other guy hits him. He hits him back with a glass. So he puts him in hospital. He ends up being arrested, and he goes for community service. He almost walks into, well, he does walk into traffic actually, but his sister, who got a sense of what was happening from, he left one of his medals behind for his brother, and his sister found it and realised, oh. So she goes out. She manages to find him. She's on a bridge, and she yells out, and he doesn't get hit by the truck. But then he ends up doing community service, and he ends up being in a facility that does swim therapy. So there's this guy who he was injured in a motorbike accident, and he's a real. They don't actually say exactly what his injury is. He did a good job acting because he wasn't acting, but he was acting. And eventually, like, he first comes in, he's like, I can't do this, I cannot get in the water, and I'm not here to work with a bunch of S words. I'm not going to say what he called them, similar to the R word. It's like the words I can't and don't say on YouTube. And eventually he just freaks out, gets spiraling a bit. Eventually he pulls his head in. He goes back to his coach, because he originally left that coach to work with like the big Victorian sort of whoever trains all the medalists and all that, the ones with all the money. But it doesn't go well with them. He actually drops in his time. He goes back to the coach. They train, but it didn't work. But then when he goes back to the coach again, he's like, look, we can go again for the next Olympics. I'll still be 24. I can do this. And he's like, I'm dying of cancer. And he's like, it's not going to happen. He dies. He gives him part of his house and his property. He sees the guy at the funeral, and he walks over to him and says, I'm sorry for hurting you, and I hope you can forgive me one day. He looks at him for a second, walks off, just shrugs his shoulders, walks off. I'm like, ouch. And then eventually he does talk to this guy, this disabled guy, and the guy who got him there could see that he's got patience and what did he say? Basically said, you're good at this, because he was listening to the guy, talking to the guy, connecting with the guy, even though he had called him the S word, and he did throw it back at his face later. He didn't personally apologise to him. But the last sort of scene is him helping this guy with swim therapy. And in the film, in the miniseries, you see him, there are a few moments of talking about swimming and just the feeling of being free. And the thing he loved most was when he went in the water, felt like everything else disappeared. And he's helping this guy because he's afraid, because I don't think he's like been in the water since his accident. He was in a motorcycle accident. And eventually like helps him do it and guides him into it, and he's holding him, and he's like, safe, and he basically says, I feel free, because he sort of, I guess, lets go of whatever the anxiety is or whatever, and it feels relaxed, comfortable, releases whatever, and just feels some relief and some freedom and that. And it's a nice moment, and thank God they ended on a moment like that, because the rest of the thing, the first 2 episodes, good, it's all competition. The 3rd episode ends with everything falling apart, and then the 4th episode, I'm like, how are they going to fix this in 1 episode, 1 hour? Because he's just spiraling down into a mess, and then he comes back up a little bit and has a little moment, finds a little bit of positive something, and and that's where it leaves us. I'm like, wow. Now the guy who wrote this wrote Head On, So I should have been prepared, but he's a very nihilistic Greek gay guy. But yeah, it was good. I was compelled. I was like wanting to know what happened in the next episode, and they give you next episode and last episode at the end of each episode. But yeah, the last episode I was like, how are they going to resolve this in any meaningful or happy way in the next hour? I'm like, please don't let this end really bad. I thought he was going to kill himself because there was a coffin in one of the next times. And I thought, God, don't let that be the end, and then it's the family dealing with it. But that was the coffin of the coach who died of cancer. So yeah, but it's good, but it's not really a happy ending. It is, but it's not like this guy fails and just copes with it, and that's where we leave it at. Like it's like breaking even. It's the best you get. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Barracuda.